I would ask your marketing company that you're paying now or one that you're interested in hiring, how have your processes changed in the last year? And how do you anticipate them changing in the next year?
Got it.
And I just look for some kind of coherent response to that. If you can see they're just kind of thinking on the spot, trying to make something up to satisfy your question, it's probably not a good marketing agency to hitch your wagon to. If they think, and I hear this surprisingly often from marketing companies, if they say, you know what, not much has really changed.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's what everybody's saying. Hey, it's all the same. Don't worry about it. It's GEO's SEO. Don't worry about it. That's what I hear all the time.
Yeah, I think that's just wishful thinking. Google's not so much trying to find AI content. They're trying to find low quality content
and get rid of
content that looks like it was made at scale. And they've said multiple times they don't care if your content was made by AI.
They don't care if it's written by AI. They just want to make sure that it's actually valuable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's, I mean, they just had a spam update a few weeks ago, and these companies that are creating low quality AI content at scale are getting hit.
AI isn't just changing dentistry, it's completely redefining it. Tune into Bite-Size Podcast, the dental AI and tech podcast, and stay ahead of the curve.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Bite-Size Podcast. I have brought TJ Robertson on, who I found on TikTok. Somehow he got into my freaking TikTok feed. And my feed is like full of like GEO, AI stuff. And so I see stuff constantly. I'm looking through it every day. And I was just like super impressed with your pointedness and your clarity. And so I reached out, sent you a DM. You actually responded. And so here we are. Here we are.
Yeah.
All right.
TikTok
So anyway,
has been very kind to me.
Yeah, it's good. Just for our audience, because you're not in the dental industry, but you're definitely neck deep in what we talk about on this podcast. Give us a little bit of just a quick history on who you are, how you got started, where you've been, why you're here, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I've been doing SEO since 2009. I had my own freelance business for a few years, and then I joined with another agency in 2014 and helped grow that from the bottom up. But really, my fascination right now is AI, like you mentioned, getting into ChatGPT, getting my clients in there, and then also just using it to do digital marketing more efficiently. And so over the last 2 years, I've really completely reinvented all my processes.
Okay.
And I noticed that the founder of that last agency was not on the same page as me and was not ready to make big changes. And just May of this year, decided to start my own agency and do it the way that I think we should be doing it. But all my experience is working with companies like dentists, small local service businesses, and helping them rank higher in Google and now in large language models like ChatGPT.
So it's you. How big is your team? Is it just you right now, or have you hired anybody?
I have 6 contractors, and my sister's working for me now. She's actually sitting right over there. So, we're growing quick, mostly because of TikTok, to be honest, which I did not see happening. But the algorithm liked my videos I make while I walk my dog around the neighborhood, and so that's been the bigger lead source than I ever could have imagined.
Well, good for you, dude. I'm happy for you. You mentioned that on a previous call, you mentioned that you were looking for an SEO strategist or a GEO strategist to bring on. You still looking for somebody?
I need so many different roles. I'm trying to figure out the right order to hire them in. So we need a content person, we need an account manager, we need an SEO strategist. I'm not sure what order we're going to hire those people in.
All right. For those listening, if you want to get out of dentistry and get into marketing, reach out to TJ and send him your resume. So he's hiring. So good for you, man. That's awesome. All right, let's just jump into it. A TikTok came through and you made a bold claim that marketing companies would be obsolete by 2027, which made me perk up because I own a marketing company. It's like, wait, what? So what do you mean by obsolete?
Yeah, so I have to respect the TikTok algorithm and put something provocative.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do mean it, but I should clarify that I mean digital marketing agencies as they've existed thus far. I think a
Okay,
lot of
thank you. I'm sweating. I was going to be out of business.
And yeah, of course, I just started an agency, so I don't think it's a bad time to have an agency, but I do think that we're going to have to pivot. I think that any agency that continues operating the way they've been operating is going to have a very hard time staying in business, as of 2027.
Okay.
Some of them might, just because, clients get used to paying and they stop looking at what the agency is actually doing. And
Right.
unfortunately, there's a lot of grift in digital marketing, and that I'm sure will keep happening. But if you're making a business by actually providing results for your clients and doing good work, then I think that AI is just replacing so much of our work. Not
Okay.
all of it. We're still going to need humans in 2027.
Yeah.
The strategy part, the context part, AI is not really getting better at that very quickly. But if you look at the actual work that the average digital marketing agency does, it's not very creative. It's pretty straightforward. It could be written out as an SOP. And all that work, I think, will become software.
Okay.
And so you'll still have agencies. And if they can adapt and lower their prices, increase their output, and just do more, better work, then I think they'll thrive. But it is, I think, a bigger change than people are expecting, just from, people, I think, mostly are a little disappointed with AI in the moment. There's a big spectrum, of course, but I think a lot of people, were promised the world with AI, and they're like, it's still just a chatbot. But I think we're going to see a big change between now and 2027.
And I agree. I think if you're neck deep in this stuff and you're looking at all the development and how fast the development's going, it's kind of impossible to land that this is not a big deal. But I think what you're explaining is there's a definition of terms here, or maybe not, it's not the right way to say it, but AI and automation are kind of two things that are kind of assumed to be one and the same. So when you're talking about a workflow, you have a client, you're doing a blogging for them or some SEO stuff, right? And you're looking at your internal workflows. You're not saying that an AI is going to do all the workflows. The AI is going to be implemented in different portions of that workflow, but you're creating an automation. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Am I describing that correctly?
Yeah, I think it's good to distinguish the two, because you could define any AI output as an automation, right? If you put in a prompt and then you get an output, cool, you automated the work of that output. But that's different from automating an entire process. And people will use tools like N8N or specific software.
Make.com, yeah.
Yeah, Zapier has been doing this for forever. And that can automate a whole process. And there are a few processes that it makes sense to automate. If you're maybe distributing to social media channels, or you're doing customer intake, or anything where you have a predictable input and you need a standard output, great, automate it. Those are usually the simple tasks. The high value tasks, if you're writing content that's going to represent your brand,
right?
If you're putting together strategy that's actually going to inform decisions in your company, I would not automate that. And I think you're seeing a lot of advice online of people saying, automate everything. And they show you these huge N8N workflows with, 100 different nodes doing all this crazy stuff. And most of the time, I think that's right now a big waste of time, because it's really hard to build those to reliably give you output. And two, there's a lot of benefit to having a human in the loop, at least right now.
Yeah. Let's talk about your AI ambassador idea, because I think that illustrates what you're trying to describe. So give us an idea of what an AI ambassador is mean in terms of your own company, and what that process kind of looks like, or where you see your company, the way you're developing your company and building it, how that structure will be set up where there are humans involved, but a lot of it's automated. Give me an example of that.
Yeah, this is really the core of our business. And I believe most marketing agencies will be doing something similar within 1 or 2 years, just because it's so effective. It's also a very good example of something that I think will be software soon. I'm trying to help build that software. But essentially, for every client, we have a AI brand ambassador. Right now, it's just a project in Claude. And if you're not familiar with Claude, it's ChatGPT. It's better in some ways, it's worse in some ways, but
It's
it's
definitely
really
better
good.
at copywriting. I found it
Yeah.
be much better with copywriting for sure.
And that's one of the two reasons we prefer it. The other thing it's better at is understanding a lot of context. So if
Okay.
you give ChatGPT too much context, it switches over to RAG, and now we're getting a little too technical maybe, but it switches over to RAG sooner, which just means that it pulls in less information for the prompt.
And it gets kind of sloppy over time.
Yeah, that's true. And Claude will get sloppy if you have a very long conversation, so we try to keep our conversation short, but it has a lot of context, and that's what's important. And
Before you jump into this, describe a project. What do you mean by project? Because most people are just used to going to like Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever and just typing in a prompt and just interacting directly with the LLM. So help everybody understand what you mean by a project.
The most common version of this, or the one you've probably or may have heard of, is a custom GPT. So ChatGPT has something called a custom GPT. In Gemini, they're called gems, and in Claude, they're called projects. It's like a custom version of the chatbot, of the large language model. It has two parts to it. You have custom instructions and project knowledge. So when you set up a project, you give it instructions on how it should operate. And I'll explain how we do that for the brand ambassador. And then you give it project knowledge, which is just files. We typically give it Google Docs so that we can change those Google Docs and it'll change the information it has. But those are files that it has access to whenever you're talking about it or talking with it. It can pull information from there as needed.
Okay. So this almost narrows the scope of the LLM. You're giving it precision, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And anytime you find yourself, if you have a task you're going to do many times, you should consider putting together a project to do that task. So some smaller examples I have before I get into the brand ambassador is I have a project just for taking a video transcript I've done and turning it into an email.
Got it.
Or a video transcript to an SOP. Or I do a lot of stuff with video transcripts. I can give it a video transcript and it'll give me, the titles and descriptions for all my social media channels.
Right.
And so once it's set up, you don't have to type the prompt over and over again. You don't have to provide all that context each time. You just give it the unique input. It knows exactly what to do.
Got it.
Saves a bunch of time. And they can take a while to build, but it's, you only have to put that time in once, maybe iterate it on it a little bit. And then the quality of the output is just so much higher.
Okay.
So with the brand ambassadors, the project instruction is pretty straightforward. It's just you represent this brand. Your job is to create content or strategy on behalf of the brand. And then there's some instructions about, don't include anything that isn't public facing in the content, just some little fixes that we've noticed where it goes wrong. And then we itemize every document we've given it. So we say, you have a document called brand basic information. This has all the basic information about the brand. You have a document called, customer profile. This has all the information about this brand's ideal customer profile. And we'll put between 4 and 8 different documents in this brand ambassador. And the goal is to have everything there is to know about this brand. Everything that someone who was going to represent this brand would need to understand before they could do that reliably.
Right.
And so we spent a lot of time setting this up. It has really just everything, all the opinions that the founder has ever stated publicly online, everything about all of their products and services, and then specific instructions on when to reference each of those documents.
Got it.
And so once that's set up, then you can create blog posts, you can create website copy, you can create social media copy. And it's as if the brand wrote it themselves, right? It sounds like the founder wrote it themselves. And so it's in their brand voice. We'll set up a custom style, which is another thing you can do in Claude. And if it's talking about a product or service they offer, it has all that information. It knows which pages to link to from the blog post. And so that's really what our whole agency is built around, is creating and maintaining this brand ambassador so we can do everything else at a higher quality and higher efficiency. Eventually, I think that'll be software. But right now...
Okay, so to make this super simple, what's happening is you're going into Claude, you're creating a project for a client, a specific client. This is not for all your clients, this is for one client. You're dumping in all of the content that you can get your hands on that's public facing, right? Videos, articles, website content, interviews, recorded calls with the client. You're dumping all that in, and you're giving it instructions to reference that material for future activities that you're going to prompt it. So basically what you've created is you create a little box, and it's got all the information about the practice, or excuse me, I say practice because I'm talking dental practices all day, but the organization that you're working, your client, right? And now what you have is you have set up a little brain that has all the information on the brand, on the company, right? The owners, the players, their goals, their value propositions, their benefit statements, their competitors, probably all of that information. And anything you would build when you're creating a company, you would basically put all of that in there. And then you're using that project and you're giving it a prompt. You're saying, now I need to build a website. And this is what I need to build. Give me all the content for the website. And it's referencing all the material to give it to you. So you're not having to build anything from scratch. You're not just going and hiring a great copywriter who then does hours and hours and days, maybe weeks of research to write it appropriately. You have your little brain there that gets you probably 80, 90% of the way, I would imagine. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah. Two slight differences, that's what you said, but you definitely outlined the fundamentals. We used to give it raw transcripts and raw recordings and stuff like that. The problem there is that you end up with a lot of fluff, right? If you give it a call transcript, you're giving it like, oh, how's the weather over there?
Yeah,
what did you do this weekend? And you really want that data as clean as possible to make it easy to just pull in the information you need. And otherwise, some of that stuff will leak into the output. And so we clean all the data. And we want it to be as efficient as possible. So we don't want the same information in there twice. And so we have structure to each document and what information should be in there. And then whenever we need to update it, and this is why it needs to be software, we have a prompt where we say, hey, here's a new call transcript. Look through all these files and figure out what needs to be updated.
Gotcha.
And then right now we have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. You have to do that manually. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a pain to manage right now. Eventually it'll be software. We can just drag and drop it and it'll do the updates automatically. But it's still worth it for us. And then when we go to create a web page or a blog post, we have a whole system for that. So we'll have a big prompt just for web page creation, right? And then we'll usually give it a template, so because we want to make sure the word counts match whatever page we're building it into.
Right.
And so so one part of our workflow is the brand ambassador. The other is this like prompt library of 50 different prompts we have for each of our processes.
Okay. So looking back at the previous agency that you were at, where the one that you left, you guys were doing a lot of the same kind of work, digital marketing work there?
Yep.
Okay. So what you're describing is it's a heavy lift on the front end. I mean, there's quite a bit of time and energy spent at the beginning to get the brand ambassador set up. So now that you've got this thing built and you've got clients and you're offering your services, really what productivity gains do you see that you're getting?
With content, it's pretty remarkable. So the first piece of content we create for a client, we spend about 6 hours on.
Okay.
And that's because we want to make sure that first piece is just perfect. So we've built a brand ambassador, and then we're creating, let's say, a service page. So it could be a teeth whitening page.
Okay.
We want to make sure the page looks beautiful. We're going to spend a lot of time designing it. We're going to create a Google Doc for the words, and then we're going to tell the client, be as critical as possible. Really go through this and tell us everything that you don't like about it, because we want to make sure that we never make that mistake again. And so we'll get 20 edits from the client, right?
Okay.
But then we're not just editing that Google Doc.
You're
Every edit we see,
the ambassador.
We're updating the ambassador, or we're updating the template we use for the page. And so the second page takes us about 2 hours. And then at a certain point, we're just printing pages. We're just saying, now write it on this topic. Copy paste into the template.
It's exactly what they want.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so the client's still reviewing it, but at this point they have few to no edits.
Does that allow you to drop your costs? Be more competitive?
Yeah. So at my last agency, we charged $500 for a blog post, a little bit more for a page. And now that first page still costs a good amount, but after
Yeah.
that, we're charging 150 on average.
Yeah. Okay. So you've cut your costs by 2/3 basically, and you still
Yeah.
retain the profitability margin that allows you to stay in business.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So one of the things that you mentioned so you got your brand ambassador set up. And one of the things that I was curious about is how to do some kind of automation regarding backlinks. So describe what a backlink is for those that don't know what it is, why it's important in SEO and GEO. And then tell me how you're trying to solve that problem around backlinking, because that's usually a manual process. Like I know a company that's down the street. Was the biggest SEO company on the planet, and 30, 40,000 clients, big organizations as clients. And I've hired a couple of people from their organization, and they have a room full of, 200 people calling other businesses that are close to their client or relevant to the client they have, and saying, hey, can we write a blog post about this company and publish it on your website to create a backlink? I mean, it's just outbound dialing all day long, every day. And that's the product. The product is like call until you find somebody that says, yeah, I'll allow you to publish a blog post and link to your client. So I'm curious about how you not have to do that.
Yeah.
Or I'm curious about how you might develop some kind of an automation that would at least plug some of the holes in that manual process. Do you mind commenting on that?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you what we're doing. I think a lot of that work, we're not ready to automate.
Some of it, yeah.
If you got a call right now from an AI bot asking if they could post a blog post to your website, I think most people
are going to hang up.
Most people are going to hang up. So maybe we'll get to a point. Maybe we'll get to a point where we're not bothered by AI calls because they're just part of our everyday life and they're just as easy and seamless as calls with humans. But right now we're finding smaller ways. So before we go out and purchase backlinks, we try to exhaust all the organic backlinks as we call them. And these are links from companies that are happy to link to you. And so we have a brainstorming process with the client, and this does require the client to spend some time, but it's well worth it, where we give them a list of 40 different categories to help them think about relationships they might have with people with websites. So it's like, think of all your vendors, think of all the schools that your team members went to and that they're alumni at. Yeah. You think of the teams or organizations that you've sponsored or helped. And so there's 40 of these, and usually the client can come up with 10 to 30 organizations that have a website. And then we have a Gemini gem. So this is like a cloud project, but it's in Gemini. Gemini is typically better at retrieving information from a web page. And so is
Perplexity. I think Perplexity is pretty. Have you used Perplexity in that?
I haven't. No, I haven't tried that. I'll have to try that.
Yeah, Perplexity is pretty good, at least from what I've seen.
That's cool. Okay. So it has instructions on how to look through each of these websites and identify opportunities. So it'll look through each website and it'll say, do they have a blog? Do they accept guest posts? Do they post testimonials on their website? Okay. Do they have offers from other companies? Do they have a partners page? And so it goes through 4 different categories, and then it pulls in a little bit of extra data. We give that data, it's in a table, to a Claude project. We're just hopping around from large language models based on what they're best at. And we'll typically do this in the client's brand ambassador project, so it has that information if it needs it. And in Claude, it'll go through and put together a strategy, an outreach strategy for each URL. So say, hey, this company has a blog. They typically write on this. Here's a topic you could offer to write a blog post on.
So it cuts out all that thinking. Yeah. But you still have to shoot an email or make a phone call.
Yeah. And I mean, when you consider that purchasing these backlinks,
and
these and then they're highly relevant and they're from respected companies. And these are companies who aren't normally selling backlinks. And you might pay $1,000 to get a link of this quality. And if we can get 10 of them and only take, a few hours of the client's time, it's easily worth it for them. And the response rate's a lot better. If it's the client themselves reaching out to someone they know.
Rather than a marketing company.
Usually 50% of them are happy to give them a backlink.
And really quick, just talk really briefly about why this is so valuable, why
Yeah.
backlinks are so important.
Yeah. Sorry, we glazed over that. I meant to, yeah. So a backlink is just any website online linking to your website. It's really what made Google back in the day. Search engines used to rank websites with no mind to backlinks, and the rankings were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then Google kind of figured out that they could approximate which websites are the most trustworthy by counting how many other websites were linking to them.
Okay.
And it didn't take too long before SEOs started abusing that. And so it's
Right.
been this cat and mouse game where Google has to get more and more sophisticated about which backlinks can actually be trusted and which ones cannot. They're still not great at it, which is why buying backlinks is still effective. But you do have to be smart. You should be buying backlinks from someone who knows what not to do. Buying backlinks from the wrong websites or with the wrong anchor text or pointing to the wrong pages. There's certain patterns that Google will notice and penalize you for. But it's still one of the main factors that Google uses to determine rankings.
Yeah. So, and it's the way, and so if you think about it, when I've tried to explain this to dentists or dental marketing managers, it's kind of like when Google looks at your website, I mean, it has to look good, it has to load fast. I mean, it has to be really good information. You have to meet all the qualifications that Google says, hey, look, this is what you got to do with your website to make sure that we read it properly, site maps, all that kind of stuff, a bunch of technical things. But they still don't know how valuable you are or the authority that you carry in your industry. They can't tell that. If they look at ABC Dental Practice website and DEF Dental Practice website, and they basically have all the same information, Google has to have some other metric that they use to say, this one is more of an authority and should rank higher than the other one. And so backlinks from relevant, hopefully industry specific, and the other things that you've mentioned, correct anchor text and so forth, those linking in are like little votes. So this guy's got 10,000 votes. This guy's got 100 votes. Obviously, the one with 10,000 votes is more authoritative because other people are referencing that company. So this is why backlinks are incredibly valuable, right? I mean, is that a fair way to describe it?
Yeah.
Would you say?
That's perfectly said. Yeah.
Yeah. So in every SEO or GEO, or doesn't matter what it is, backlinking becomes a really important part of the strategy in order to create authority. Okay, cool. So I think we've beat that one up pretty good. So once you set up this brand ambassador and you've got your machine kind of working, so you can pump out blog articles and service pages and other marketing content, whatever it might be, what happens when your client has a fundamental change? Like, for example, they launch a new product, or the owner sells the company to somebody else, or they change their name. Are you rebuilding this brand ambassador? Are you going in and kind of tweaking the one that you've got? Or how do you adjust on the fly? Because you've spent a lot of time setting that up so that it produces exactly what you want, but now you got to make an edit. So how do you handle that?
So the documents in the brand ambassador are the only things that you really need to edit. And we have them set up as Google Docs. And so you might have to completely rebuild a Google Doc. One of the docs that we include are founder opinions. So these are going to be like common questions and the answer that the founder would give. If you have a new founder, you might want to completely redo that doc. But for the most part, if you're just changing your address or something, you're just going in there and you're editing one line on the Google Doc.
Right.
If you want to add additional information, you can just add a new document and update the instructions to know when to reference that document.
Okay.
So it's still a little bit of work, but it's not prohibitive. And again, I'm just give it a year.
Yeah.
It'll be software. It'll be so easy.
Yeah. All right. When that software's built, call me.
Yeah, I'm working on one piece. I'm sure there's 100 startups doing something similar, but
this stuff's coming out so fast. Like we have built, along these lines. We do a ton of we do SEO, GEO stuff. We do a ton of that. So we're writing hundreds of pages of copy every month. And man, if I were to walk, I'm not going to walk through every step that's required from beginning to end and all the team members and the time involved, because it's going to make this 30-minute podcast 60 minutes because it just takes so long. But I estimated that we probably spend about 2.5 to 3 hours to write a blog article. And it just goes through a chain of command and tasks, and one team member assigning another team member something and whatever. So anyway, we used make.com, and we've built an automation that kind of does that. It solves that problem. We didn't build a brand ambassador issue or a brand ambassador project like you've done it, which I think is ultimately where things are going to go with marketing companies. But we've tied that automation to an interview.
Yeah.
The real concern about using AI is that a lot of people go, oh, I can just go to ChatGPT and say, write me an article about dental implants. And you can bust it out and it sounds great and it has all correct information. But it's like the same article that you'll see a million other articles just like it. And with a flood of copywriting that's coming out of the market because of AI, it's just a lot of fodder. And I think that in order to really stay relevant, you have to bring in some authenticity. It has to be there. Like Google's going to recognize it. They're going to recognize that stuff is written by AI and it's just sloppy and it's not specific. And so you've got to tie it to what you've done, a brand ambassador, or like an interview, something where you get actual words from your client, right? And you suck that into the article and then you are able to frame it up correctly. So we built something and we tie it back to an interview.
Yeah,
now
we,
the only
we try to
problem,
do the same thing when we can.
yeah, good. The only problem is now you got to get on a call with a dentist and try to get on a call and say, I need 30 minutes, please. I need 30 minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you can get on a call, you should be able to go through, a lot of topics. In
you
30
can hit a
minutes,
bunch of
hopefully.
them.
Yeah. We encourage our clients to do short form videos because not
cool.
only is that great for the blog content, but it's also great for TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. You can use those so many different places.
Yeah.
And then sometimes our clients will write their own articles. They're just not written for search. And so we can take that as
you
a
go in and
point
optimize them out.
Yeah, so we have a different process for each of those. But yeah, having some input from the client is really important, like you said. Google's not so much trying to find AI content. They're trying to find low quality content
and get
or
rid of
content that looks like it was made at scale. And they've said multiple times they don't care if your content was made by AI.
They don't care if it's written by AI. They just want to make sure that it's actually valuable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's they just had a spam update a few weeks ago. And these companies that are creating low quality AI content at scale are getting hit. But there's plenty of examples. Man, there's this fintech publication. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it has AI in the name. All their content's written by AI. They advertise on their website that their content's written by AI, but it's really good content. And they have just been going up. The Google spam update just came out. They didn't get hit at all. They just keep going up. And so you can definitely create content at scale with AI. You just have to be smart about it.
Yeah. I think that what you've done is a super it's with an eye on longevity for your company to stay relevant, because like you were mentioning earlier, there's all these automations. Like I see these N8N and make.com stuff coming through my TikTok and YouTube shorts constantly. And it's like, hey, just do this and you're done. But the reality of it is that if it's that easy, everybody's going to be doing it. And then Google has to find a new way to find relevance and authority and authenticity. So tying the automation and the AI to an authentic project or to, a video or some original type of content is still, and that's the man-made part of this. You're just not going to be able to get rid of that. You have to pull in some sort of authenticity, or I think that it's just fodder. It's not going to last, So I think you've created a great balance there of leveraging AI and automation, but retaining the ability to stay hyper authentic. And that's a really interesting play, you know what I mean, in a marketing company.
Yeah, and I've talked with a lot of other SEOs that have kind of given up on this. It's too hard. It's too hard to create good content without, humans heavily involved in the process. And I don't blame them because it is hard. Like you said, it's hard to do well, and we're still learning. We're still figuring out how to set it up. It'll be interesting to see once, because eventually I think this problem will be solved. I think there will be software that just makes this pretty easy.
Yeah.
And that'll be really interesting. I don't know how Google will respond to that.
But I think, let's say that whole process is automated, everything. You still have to have some kind of a original piece of content to make it work. You still have to call your client and talk to them and pull out of them, something that's a gem. You know what I mean? I mean, you can't get around that.
No,
I don't see how you could.
Point. Yeah, I think AI is not going to be replacing the expertise that the dentist with a decade of experience or more has anytime soon.
Yeah.
But it will make it easier and easier for that dentist to amplify the value that they can provide. And so I think what we're going to have is a flood of really high quality content that's just where AI has helped people who otherwise wouldn't be bothered to go and write content. Can now suddenly spend 30 minutes and they've created 100 pieces of high quality content.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up. So for our listeners, dentists, dental marketing managers, dental team members, DSOs, whatever, what's a good, how do they prepare? Or, I mean, we're talking about marketing company guts, right? And a lot of our listeners aren't running marketing companies. We're kind of pulling back the veil, and we're showing them kind of how things are done internally. So what is an action item that you would tell a dentist or somebody in the dental industry who's listening to this and understanding, okay, this is how marketing companies are shifting? What do they need to know? Is there a set of questions they should ask? Or, if they're considering using a marketing company, if they want to do it on their own, give me some kind of an action item that you think that they should take away from this.
Yeah, I would ask your marketing company that you're paying now or one that you're interested in hiring, how have your processes changed in the last year? And how do you anticipate them changing in the next year?
Got it.
And I just look for some kind of coherent response to that. If you can see they're just kind of thinking on the spot, trying to make something up to satisfy your question, it's probably not a good marketing agency to hitch your wagon to. If they think, and I hear this surprisingly often from marketing companies, if they say, you know what, not much has really changed.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's what everybody's saying. Hey, it's all the same. Don't worry about it. It's GEO's SEO. Don't worry about it. That's what I hear all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's just wishful thinking. That would be great as a marketing agency owner. I would love it if nothing was changing. But no, it's changing. And so, I think you should hitch your wagon to someone who believes it's changing and who is constantly iterating and learning to stay ahead.
Yeah. Dude, TJ, thank you so much for this. I'll put your contact information in the show notes if anybody's interested in reaching out. And is there anything else would you be willing to do a free consultation, or I don't know, if there's somebody listening that's interested in engaging with you?
Yeah, I used to do free audits for anyone with a marketing budget, and I got too many requests. But for your audience, any dentists out there, if you have a marketing budget and you want a free audit, I'm happy to.
Okay, cool. All right, man. It's been a pleasure. We'll invite you on again, and the next topic we're going to talk about is GEO. That's for sure. So we're going to have something coming up here soon.
Great. Looking forward to it.
All right, man. Take care. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Bite Size Podcast. Tune in to stay up to date with everything dental AI and tech